Hey everyone, it's Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you are with me today because today is going to be another wrap-up video. I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in the second half of August. Can't believe that we are to September again. And I know I sound like a broken record saying that because I say that in all my videos. It just amazes me how quickly time flies by. So I read 6 books in the second half of September. I believe that puts my total for August. I believe that puts my total of all the books that I read in August up to 12. So I did really good for reading for August. I had several favorite books. And then the second half, there is 3 arcs that I read, another 5-star book, and then at the end of this video, we'll kind of go over where I'm at with some of my monthly goals that I have for reading. So we're going to get right into it. So the first book that I have to talk about is Say It Again by Tessa Hatfield. This was an arc that I read. This is a debut author. So this book is a rom-com. It is an Achillean romance, so that means this is a male-male romance. And this book was pitched to me as a male-male Pretty Woman type romance, which I don't know if it necessarily lived up to that hype, but it was still a very good romance. So this one, we have Daniel. He is a dancer, and he stumbles into Aaron, who is our other protagonist of the story, while he is helping out a friend bartend. Daniel thinks that Aaron is really cute, but also mistakes him as a lawyer, just kind of assumes that he is a lawyer based off of some other things that was said about him at this party. Aaron is not a lawyer. Aaron is, in fact, a sex worker. He is an escort. So they kind of start this relationship together because they really like each other and they get along really well. But there is a little bit of that like hidden mistaken identity because Aaron doesn't really know how to bring up to Daniel about what he does for a living. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I thought this was a really cute and fun romance. The banter between these 2 characters was super cute and sweet. I don't necessarily think that this really fits for like a Pretty Woman reimagining. It just, to me, it didn't really fit that. And there was definitely some bumps in the road for their relationship, especially at the beginning, because Daniel doesn't actually know who Aaron is. And then there's some other things that happen too that cause some bumps. But this did have some pretty good character development, which I did really appreciate because you'll know that's one of my favorite things to read about in romances. So I really liked that. So again, I give this one 4 stars and that was really cute. Then the next book that I read was Heart of Frost and Scars by Pam Godwin. This is the 3rd book of the Frozen Freight trilogy, the final book. I read an arc of this one. I read arcs of all the books in this series, and I was so excited to read this one. So this is just a conclusion of the series. I don't want to say too much what happens in this one because each of these books build upon each other. These are romantic suspense stories. So if I kind of say where we're at in the 3rd one, that will kind of ruin things if you haven't picked up book 1. I read book 1 back in March, I think. But this was it was so good. And it was like a fantastic ending to this series. Pam Godwin has such a way of like keeping you on your toes with her stories. I didn't know what was going to happen next. This does end up into a poly romance with our female main character and some of the men from this story. And let's see here. There's BDSM, lots of kink in here. This one did touch on, which some of the other books in the series touched on a little bit with like mental health. This one also really touched on that as well. So I really appreciated seeing that in the story, because just how it played out, it like made sense for what was going on in the story. And I gave this 5 stars. I love this story. Honestly, this series might be Pam Godwin's best. And I read several of Pam Godwin. Pam Godwin is one of my favorite authors. And I really, really love this one. There is going to be I think it's going to be a one-off, but there is going to be a spin-off to this one coming next year, with one of the characters from this book and the series. And I am so excited for it. I cannot wait to read it. I will read anything that Pam Godwin puts out now. It was so good. I loved it. Then I have Sonata by Kenya Wright. This is the second book of the Butcher and the Violinist duet. I read the first book of this series back in May when I did the Mafia Romance Readathon. This is one of the books that I picked up, so I decided to finish this duet. This is a dark romance. Obviously, it is Mafia, since I read the first one for the Mafia Romance Readathon. So this is about Eden and Jean-Pierre. Jean-Pierre is this big, like, French mafia boss, and at the end of the first book, Eden finally found out like who he was, and she decided that she wanted to be with him. So in this second part, she is fully realizing what that means to be associated and be with somebody in the mafia. So there is a lot with with his enemies. There's a lot of like thrilling type things that happen, and they're just trying to be together and survive together, with them being in love. So this one, I really liked the first book, and this one still had some of the elements that I liked from the first book, being that like these characters are very sexual and very sensual with one another. They are so into one another. This book, had that as well, but just it was downplayed more than it was in the first one. This one I ended up giving 3.5 stars. It was still a really good book, and I did overall enjoy it, but it was just a little bit more, a little bit lackluster. I just didn't find myself enjoying it as much as the first book. And I also kind of felt like there was less of a focus on their romance in this one. There's a lot of stuff with other mafia players that they ended up getting together with. So I do kind of want to read some more Kenya Wright books, because I did overall like these stories. This one just wasn't a favorite for me. Then I read The Sweet Spot by Tay Monet. This is a contemporary romance. I listened to this one on an audiobook. It was a very quick audiobook, so I'm not sure if this is a full-length novel or if this is a novella. But this is a friends to lovers story. This is about Amara. She owns a bakery, but she is dealing with a lot of grief and trying to figure out her life, after her mother very suddenly passed away. She was very close with her mother. That was her only parent figure in her life. And then we have her best friend, Khalil. Khalil has also dealt with like the death of his parents, so he has promised Amara that he is going to be there for her, that he's going to help her through this and help her through her grief, and at one point potentially make it known to her that he has a crush on her and would like to be more than just friends with her, if that's what she would want. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This one, just as the title of this story, The Sweet Spot, this is just overall was a very sweet story. I really felt for Amara and all that she was dealing with, but having Khalil there was just, he was such a good counterpart to her, and he was so supportive of her. and it was honestly just really, really sweet to see, and I really enjoyed it. Then the last arc that I read for August is going to be The Heartbreaker by Sarah Kate. This is the third book in her Good Brother series. I was so excited that I actually got chosen to read an arc of this. I wasn't sure if I would be able to, because I'm pretty sure I've been denied for arcs in the past for Sarah Kate. At least the last one that I tried to do. But I got accepted and I was able to read the arc of this before it came out. And I was so excited for this. This is one of my highly anticipated book releases for this year. Anything that Sarah Kate puts out, I'm dying to get my hands on it. I love like everything that Sarah Kate does. So like I said, this is the third book in the Good Brothers series. This is about Lucas, who is one of the Good Brothers. Lucas is a college professor. And then we also have Sadie. So Sadie is a manager at Pink, which is a sex club. The sex club has been featured through the other books of this series. Our main female character from the first book of the series actually owns this sex club. So she's a manager there. She is also a college student trying to get her degree in business, I believe. And she's needing to get out some English credits. So she ends up taking Lucas's class. And then the day that she ends up going to class, she like pukes everywhere and finds out that she is pregnant. So there's an accidental pregnancy in this one. And so she is just kind of like down on her luck. She's trying to get her life together and figure out what she's going to do. And she's still living at home and she doesn't really want to. She's trying to be like this adult person. And so Lucas like has this conversation with her and he decides to take her in. He offers her a room in his home for rent. So they become like roommates. And then in some of their conversations that they have, they realize that she has this, they both kind of gravitate towards these BDSM type roles. And they both realize that he is a very dom kind of figure for her, and she likes to be a brat, and they like to play together. And somehow with them doing that, it kind of helps de-stress both of them and it helps them focus. And Sadie is kind of wanting this figure in her life to tell her what to do in a way, so that just to kind of help her feel like her life is where she wants it. And like I said, to kind of get her life together. So of course, in doing so, it starts out non-sexual, but then eventually obviously it's a Sarah Kate book. This is an erotic romance author. Eventually it turns sexual, and it was just such a good time. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. Obviously, well, I guess not so obviously, but if you haven't read Sarah Kate before, Sarah Kate's books have tremendous and absolutely fantastic character growth in them. And this one is no exception to that. Both Sadie and Lucas go through a lot of character growth, and a lot of it is them realizing themselves that they have to do things and they have to change how they're going about their lives. And I love seeing that. I really, really liked their romance in this one. It felt a little bit different from the other books of the series. There's a big focus on like found family in this one, and I really enjoyed that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about this one. It's such a good series, and I cannot wait for the next one. It'll be the last Good Brothers book, The Prodigal Son. I believe this one is going to be coming out next year, and it should be an Achillean romance, and I'm just so excited for it. I can't wait to read that one. And then the last book that I read for August is going to be White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. This is a nonfiction book. I've been trying to get a little bit more nonfiction read. This one is talking about Robin DiAngelo is a white woman, and she is trying to think of what exactly she was. She studied like social sciences, and she is goes around to different like companies to kind of help with diversity, I sort of. So she, in this book, is just kind of talking about why it is so hard for white people to talk about race, and how it is very important to like recognize that we live in, we live in like a white supremacist world and country, especially, and we are just how we are brought up with our society and our culture. There are going to be prejudices, and so this kind of talks about like we need to learn to recognize when we have thoughts, say things that are prejudiced, and learn how to combat those, and becoming more of like an ally for minority groups, to overall make the world a better place, I guess. So I gave this one 4 stars. I did enjoy reading this one. I felt like this was a pretty important book to read, especially as a white female. And I also really appreciated, I feel like this author brought up really good points in this book. And then she brought up very constructive points on how to move forward with some of the things that she's brought up. She had several examples in here as well. So I did really enjoy it. And I am very curious and wanting to read more nonfiction books on racism and feminism, so I will probably be picking up some more of those in the future. So that is going to be all the books that I read for the second half of August. So now I'm going to be talking about just kind of my monthly goals real quick. So I read 12 books. I had some really great ones that I read, obviously. Had some favorites in here with some more 5 stars. I did pretty well with my goals. There's one goal that I did not meet, but I did really well. So one of my goals is to read 1 nonfiction in a month. This month I read 2, so I had White Fragility, and then I also read They Called Me a Lioness. So I got 2 in, so I'm pretty proud of that. Then I have a goal to read 2 physical books, so trying to read some of my physical copies on my bookshelves. I only read 1 book, that was 7 Days in June. I did get that one finished this month, but I did not pick up any other physical copies. And then my last goal is to read 3 diverse books. So diverse meaning books written by authors of another race, another culture, reading books about relationships that like LGBTQ relationships that are different from my own, reading about characters with disability, whatever, all of that jazz. So I did really good with that one. I think I read 6 or 7 diverse books. So I had They Called Me a Lioness. That is written, that's a memoir about Ahed Tamimi. So she is Palestinian. 7 Days in June, Telia Williams. She is a Black author. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. She is a Latina author. Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle Allen, another Black author. Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, Black author. Say It Again by Tessa Hatfield, that is an Achillean romance. So I have that one. Sonata, another Black author, Can You Write? Tay Monet wrote The Sweet Spot, another Black author. So I did really well this month as far as diversity goes, and I'm hoping to continue this trend into September. But otherwise, I think that's it that I have to say for my wrap up. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up button, leave a comment down below with some of the books that you enjoyed reading in August. I really love hearing from you all. And also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And that'll be it. I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.